Everything perceived by vision, hearing, olfaction, taste, touch are not truth but an art metamorphosis of it. And the real truth is implied at the origin of this artistic representation in the big world. Joe Smith wrote the word human on a blank sheet and then erased it. What did this process mean? This means that the word human on the blank sheet is not true, but a kind of artistic expression originating from the heart of Joe Smith. The real truth is not the word, but Joe Smith, the person. The word human will not appear on the blank sheet without the person, Joe Smith. That means as long as Joe Smith exists, even if the word human is erased, but there will still be a word human. Is a flash in the pan true? Of course not. It is just another human written on a blank sheet and then being erased. It is just an artistic expression of truth hidden at the origin of epiphyllum, and its truth implies in the life structure of this plant. Is human true? Of course not. Human is just an artistic expression form in the life structure. Are bacteria, insects, vegetation, birds, and animals true? Of course not. They are just different artistic expression forms in the life structure. When we see the light of a lightning, the lightning is no longer in existence. When we look up at the stars at night, among those emitting light stars, some of them may have disappeared. When we watch those vivid characters on the video screen, some of the actors may have passed away. When we are complacent of what we own, does it ever occur to you that these things will soon pass out of existence? We live in a virtual reality, and actually what we have seen are all false. Those so-called illusory things, namely the things that the art world tries to express, are true. Visual truth is in line with the scientific and logical deduction, but it is very absurd in the philosophical sense. Standing on a point and going straight ahead, in the end one will unconsciously walk back to the start. Its essential effect equals to zero. Human society seems to be developing and moving to a higher stage of civilization. In fact, it is retracing its steps and finally will return to the starting point. Winter passes and spring comes. Until the bumper fall passes, it will be back to winter again. For seasons continuously cycle one after another. Fall is coming and the weather is getting cold. A group of wild geese flying south, and this occurs years after years repeatedly. A person, from birth to death and from death to rebirth, one world after another, is always in this way from reincarnation to transmigration. He, walking and walking, seems to be moving forward, but eventually he will return to the starting point. Without the qualitative change, life can only cycle in a strange circle. To avoid moving in circles, we have to focus on truth of life and neglect the art forms of life. To understand truth, we have to be armed with the abnormal thinking. Enlightening begins with the abnormal thinking in order to guide some people that they should not return to the starting point of life, but should transit to a higher art form of life. People seem like have found truth, but the fact is not. At least we can say that 98% of the people just live in the false art world and have never touched the boundary of truth. Suspended on a cliff with a withered vine in hands, a man would instinctively try to climb up and return to the starting point. If I told him, "Let go, let yourself fall," he would think I am non-benevolent. This is the gap between Buddha and a profane man, is also a benchmark to examine the true and false. What is the truth? The origin of art form is the truth. For everything, as long as we strip off the surface and trace the source, we will eventually find out truth. In fact, the Life of Genuine has revealed truth before the people's visual field of spiritual sense. That truth is the greatest creator, and there is only one truth in the universe. That is the greatest creator, and except him, all the rest are his artistic expression forms. What we mean by seeking truth is to seek the greatest creator. Human beings have sought truth for thousands of years. Except having found the greatest creator, who dares say, "I have found truth," yet? To seek truth departing from the greatest creator is to make vain efforts, is to deceive oneself, and is to set bondage on human beings. Whether philosophers, thinkers, artists, politicians, scientists, religious leaders, or any other person who seek truth departing from the greatest creator, all their efforts will be in vain and false, confusing the humanity. Life of Genuine expounds the greatest creator with hundreds of thousands of words in order to reveal truth for human. However, when some people seeking truth get up to the God in the Bible is not the real greatest creator, they are confused. It is difficult for them to accept when their inherent thinking pattern is overturned, and so they wanted to return to the starting point. It's just like a man who hanging from a cliff with a withered vine. He desperately wants to seize the withered vine and unwilling to let it go. As a result, he cannot climb up the cliff, nor can he get down on the ground, so he can only swing in the air. I get a range out of you crosswise, but a summit sidewise. Different visages from near or far, from low or high. The Bible, the Quran, and Tao Te Ching, the Buddhist scriptures, science, Marxism, Mao Zedong thought as such can only see either a ridge or a peak, either a distance view or see a close shot. Only organically integrating these fragments, which are seen from different profiles, we can see a probable panorama of truth. If we just grasp a part of it and then attack the rest, this is just like the blind men feel an elephant, which can only leave us far from truth. To seek truth and preserve truth is completely different from playing the concept game or moralization. It involves the life trend of each person. The water without a source is bound to dry up. A tree without root is bound to corrupt. The heart without soul is bound to die. A man without telegnosis is bound to transmigrate in a fixed circle again and again. Truth is the key elements in the core value of human nature. Without truth, the person will be short of human nature. A man cannot have a perfect human nature if he does not have the greatest creator in his mind, because his brutish nature may break out at any time to harm others and nature. Is it possible to have a good future if a man is without human nature? It is just a daydream, someone will inevitably argue. The ideas of Xiefeng are all rubbish, nonsense, and fart because some senior officials and millionaires never worship the greatest creator but live a more elegant and pleasant life than those who worship the greatest creator. That is right. There are a lot things in this world that can be easily mixed the false with the genuine, but we have to understand. The smaller the specific gravity, the easier of floating and fluttering. For a plant, the faster of growing, the shorter of lifespan. The smaller of energy, the easier of taking shape. The more of the gain, the greater of the loss. The more enjoyment in this life, the more miserable in afterlife. We often praise that the masterwork of art is very lifelike. But we never say that the masterwork of art is truth, because art is just a metamorphosis of truth. We praise all the scientific achievements are very close to truth, but we never dare to say that scientists have found truth, because science is just one way to seek truth. We praise some people are immortals, saints, but we definitely dare not say that they are the embodiment of truth, because the component part of maintaining truth and safeguarding truth in their humanity is just a little more than that in the common peoples. Is everything we can see real? For an instant, the discrepancy has been more than 100,000 miles. Everything has changed in a blink. Is it true? Truth is invariable, and the variant is not truth. It's better for us to put more component part of truth in our human nature. To maintain the orderly and harmonious mechanism of the art form is goodness. The entire material world is the artistic expression form of the recessive truth, goodness, and beauty, while the mechanism that safeguards these art forms to be orderly and harmonious is goodness. Without goodness, everything would be unordered, inordinate, ugly, unharmonious, and unbearable. The greatest creator designs the order of the universe in accordance with the law of supreme goodness. If we observe the world around us carefully, it is not difficult to find the orderliness and concordance of the big world. Voluminous celestial bodies run harmoniously without hindering others. Atmosphere and atmospheric composition of the different gases coexist together and form a harmonious whole. Oceans, rivers, lakes, and streams locate in their own position and coexist harmoniously on the earth. Mountains, valleys, plains, and hills and harmoniously constitute a beautiful landscape painting. The underground microorganisms, the insects and animals on the ground, fish in rivers and lakes and birds flying in the sky all coexist harmoniously in a total vertical crossing living space for life, which is a masterpiece of the great goodness, is the ideal and state of the goodness. For the individual of human members, the desire and behavior of trying to keep the harmonious mechanism of the big world and maintain the orderliness and concordance between oneself with the surrounding life and the ecological environment where life depends on our goodness. Specifically speaking, all the mentality that is full of the reverence to the greatest creator, the reverence for life, and the reverence to nature is goodness. All the conducts that try to safeguard the greatest creator, to maintain order, to love life and protect nature are goodness. To examine human, Chinese ethic people as an example, according to the law of goodness, order, and harmony, we can find some unkindness in our desires and behaviors. Looking back the history, we will find those emperors who did not awe God or heaven were unkind, and there would be the frequent disasters, social unrest, the rampant robbers, the ubiquitous complaints, and the unable surviving masses when those emperors governed kingdoms. On the contrary, if emperors awed God and heaven, there would be good weather, all things prosperous, honesty prevailing throughout society, people living happily, social harmony and peace. This indicates that good pratyaya grows good fruit, and bad pratyaya results in evil consequence. Comparing the leaders of the two countries, China and the United States, we find a phenomenon of a good and evil retribution. U.S. presidents, in the oath of office, always place himself humbly under the greatest creator, and the result is that the U.S. economy develops rapidly with social prosperity, the people affluence, and everyone feeling happy. In view of China, the previous leaders, in their minds, arrogantly placed themselves in the position of being a savior and never believed in the greatest creator, and the result is the suppression of human nature, the suppressed human rights, freedom giving way to power, terror haunting around. In view of the recent facts, the suppression on the personages of democracy and freedom, the rights deprivation on the religion believers, the flagrant violations on the national people's property, the indifference and control on the petitioners highlighted non-goodness of the Chinese leaders and the unkindness of the government conduct. Economic development and material wealth cannot conceal the essence of unkindness. There are always some people who think it is big goodness to solve the subsistence problem. In fact, the problem of food belongs to the property of animals, and there are the elements of free speaking and free pouring in the property human. If people have lost the right of freely expression their ideals, beliefs, thoughts, lost the right to move freely, and then the whole implication of goodness is just regarded as the food problem. Then, what is the difference between human beings with the animal in a cage? I raised 2 dogs, and I fed them enough meat, food, and pure clean water pumped from the well every day. I also allowed them to run and chase unscrupulous on the evergreen lawn surrounded by trees. Could it be said that my 2 big dogs have shared human rights? No, it is just the dog rights at most. Misgovernment makes the people rebel, because the people have to rebel, but the revolt is definitely not goodness. All the actions such as revolt, rebellion, robbery, deprivation, massacre, fighting to overthrow the dictatorship and eradication as such have destroyed the order, and all these actions are not goodness. All the mentality and actions such as launch a vengeful counterattack, scores settlement, awaiting the revenge, malicious attack, wantonly slandering, spreading rumors, stirring up trouble, encouraging hatred, provoking dissension, splitting nation, personal attacks, and fame slandering are not goodness. All the large-scale movements combining culture with politics are not goodness. All those movements such as the May 4th movement, the June 4th, and the Great Cultural Revolution destroyed goodness of human nature and natural mind, in which countless good people were treated unjustly, through which people became more and more cunning, selfish. Actions of destructing the natural environment, regardless of what high-sounding name that bannered, are not goodness because their essence is a prodigal son's behavior, which aims at destructing the homeland and foundation of descendants. All the mentality and actions such as jealousy, hatred, manufacturing fake to reap huge profits, counterfeiting brand name, stealing others' achievements, oppression, exploitation, fraud, extortion, blackmail, theft, murder, arson, abuse, loan sharking, adding insult to injury are not goodness. All the plots invented or created on the battlefield, officialdom, market, casinos, situation related with love aim at entrapping, blowing, weakening, and destroying the others are not goodness. Goodness is a scale to measure of a person's human nature. To find out if a person is goodness or not depends on whether he can keep harmonious relationship with the world around him. Once the disharmony appears, at least one part, and even 2 or more parties are non-goodness. Goodness can be classified to greater goodness and common goodness. The greater goodness is the property of the greatest creator, gods, and Buddha, and the common goodness is the property of saints, sages, and wise men. The big benevolence seems heartless. The big goodness seems evil, keeping Satan, predators, and designedly destroying part of the human are conducts of the high goodness, which is difficult to be understood according to the common sense. To maintain the orderliness and harmony of human and nature is just to conduct the low goodness. Human can only preserve the low goodness and should not conspire the high one. Otherwise, human will certainly take the road of demons. If politicians are unkind, it will inevitably lead to the popular discontent. If thinkers are unkind, this is bound to misguide human. If scientists are unkind, they are bound to become the accomplices fighting against human. If religionists are unkind, they are bound to terrify human with terror. If writers are unkind, the noveletish works are bound to pollute the human soul. If artists are unkind, this is bound to make the antics distort humanity. Goodness is also a state. The nice ideal comes from the wish of goodness. I wish everyone has goodness, and everyone has a nice ideal. 3. The harmony, proportion, collocation, and symmetry of art forms are beauty. The art form of nature, including human, is designed by the greatest creator in light of the law of beauty. The law of beauty is the harmony, proportion, collocation, and symmetry in everything from the configuration of the celestial bodies to the outward appearances of plants, from the crystal structure to the different shapes of animals, from thick and thin of color to the light and shade of light embodies the harmony, proportion, collocation, and symmetry, gives an infinite beauty for visual sense. What the sense of beauty brings people are comfort, safety, happiness, joy, delight, tranquility, and peace, but the forms being unsuitable to the sense of beauty bring people with nausea, anabole, dizziness, anxiety, anxiousness, depressing, worry, and terror. The towering cliffs, tilted building, disabled body, grotesque objects, far-fetched environmental layout, drawings and sculptures composed by unmatched proportion, strange sounds and music without any melody, the dyed-in and young head of young people and clothing with asymmetric patterns on left and right sides, etc. make people fretful and uncomfortable. Graceful art form and environment endows life with longevity, but the ungraceful art form and environment makes life short and even leads to suicide. In view of human society, a charitable king, the highly efficient government agencies with few but good staff, the management mechanism with a pyramid model will impress a sense of beauty on people. However, a management mechanism with tripartite balance of forces, overstaffed organization, inefficient work, no one in charge, and interference of many other departments can only give people a sense of chaos, disorder, blindness, depression, and sense of foreboding. In view of families, the cell of society, showing respect for the aged and love for the young, the harmonious couples, elders and juniors each in their places, female coordination, friendly neighborhood, and self-effacing for siblings will bring people with the beautiful sense of tranquility and peace. However, the families characterizing with the insatiable senior, irreverent junior, weak male, strong female, hostile neighborhood, suspicious and vengeful brothers and sisters bring people with a sense of foul atmosphere, incomprehension, reversion of yin and yang, and disarrangement. In view of the human individual, a man with proud temper, rash character, bad fortune, and poor wisdom prefers seeking quick success and instant benefits, but he always conspires a great cause. A man speaks rudely, stirs up enmity, and is not good at his own job, but he always makes random comments on others. A man ignores his proper occupation, but he always wants to incite and abets others so as to start a campaign. A man always gives up halfway, sticks to his guns, worships nothing, changes by day after day, and seldom reflects on himself. But he always blames that others' life proportion is inharmonious, asymmetric, and short of beauty. The advanced state of people's ideological level is the state of supreme goodness and supreme beauty. What they called saints refer to the people whose ideological level have reached the ultimate state of goodness and beauty. We can always tell the dignity and humbleness of a man's soul depending on the proportion of the goodness and beauty that his whole human nature occupied. The appreciation and pursuit of beauty is the eternal and maximum driving force to promote human to move on towards the civilization. In order to seek the sense of beauty, some scientists, artists, philosophers, thinkers, writers, and religionists begin their active learning, exploring, and progressing. It is absolutely not simply to gain the powers and material benefits that they are engaged in their careers. The beauty of all is added by the greatest creator. To safeguard the beauty is the bounden duty for the gods and the Buddha, the ideal and pursuit for the saint, the sage and the wise men, wishes for the ordinary people. Beauty is one of the core values of human nature. Only when beauty is in human nature can the lives bloom brilliant flowers and bear rich fruit. If a person abandons the beauty, his life would wither, and his life journey would be calamitous. Wish everyone has beautiful human nature. 4. 顺便谈谈人. 4. Endurance. A blade on heart forms the Chinese character of forbearance, which is a way of humiliatingly seeking the existence in a desperation state. The greatest creator does not require us to live disgracefully. If we regard forbearance as an excellent quality of human nature, we would have completely departed from the principle that of well-being, which is to say we have given up the freedom and human rights and we just serve as the role of cattle, horses, pigs, and dogs. Simply asking people to endure is the smoke ball released by the autocratic power and robbers in order to maintain their own vested interests, and is the poison alluring people to commit suicide. If we break down the forbearance into suffering, tolerance, and enduring humiliation in order to carry out an important task, which appear in the humility and reconciliation, in the pursuit of truth and in the devotion of cause, that is the symbol of goodness and beauty. But if we submit to humiliation, bear our shame and ignore it pitilessly in order to survive, we will indeed become a symbol of cattle, pigs, and dogs. I often queue up at oversea. If someone wants to cut in line, others would scold and stop him immediately. In this way, everyone stands in line with a good order. But in China, if someone, especially a big guy with a frightening face, cuts in the line, few people would stand out to stop him. Why does this happen? For people have learnt to forbear and learnt to survive disgracefully. In order to survive disgracefully, and many Chinese people have played the forbearance to its extreme. They are indifferent to hooligans molesting women on the street, the evil hand of the thief reaching into the pockets of others, those evil factory owner discharging toxic water into the river, watching the selfish, lazy person to brazenly dump the rubbish in public places, seeing the people's asset entering the private pockets in disguised form, seeing a bully under the protection of a powerful person insulting the weak, seeing the merchants who are obsessed with money manufacturing the toxic food, seeing the marketing fake products, seeing people do not feel ashamed about all those things. They endure the sufferings and have self-improved and own some profound forbearing intention. So human nature has forfeited, and everyone has become the dignified monks who seem to be otherworldly. Comrades, my fellow citizens and church members, please, forbear it. To forbear it forever. To forbear it until the ground and the sky are reversed. To forbear it until the right and wrong are confounded. To forbear it until the ghosts and monsters are rampant. To forbear it until the goblins in the pantry. To forbear it until the sun and the moon are dimmed. To forbear it until the seas run dry and the rocks crumble. To forbear it until one is put in a coffin and sent to crematorium, until all our free and nice human life being buried by ourselves. The famous dictum of the universe is truth, goodness, and beauty, in which I do not find the forbearance. Tao is running strictly according to the law of life. Going against the Tao, one is certain to be punished severely, whereas, following the Tao, one is bound to be rewarded. The greatest creator will definitely not prefer forbearance. Neither will the gods nor the Buddha. Forbearance is the violation and desecration of life, is the rebellion and destruction of human nature. Shall we continue to forbear? 5. Conclusion. Truth, goodness, and beauty are the origin of the art forms in the world, the attributes of the greatest creator and the core values of human nature. Truth is the origin of the art form. Goodness is an orderly and harmonious mechanism to safeguard the art form. Beauty is the harmony, proportion, collocation, and symmetry of the art form. The combination of the universe is the combination of truth, goodness, and beauty, without which there will be no the universe. Human is a kind of art form as well as a kind of art metamorphosis of truth, goodness, and beauty. Truth, goodness, and beauty have the features of immutability, but all the rest are just works of art which will change along with the changes of time and space. The lofty ideal is a kind of ideological level in seeking and safeguarding truth, goodness, and beauty. This ideological level can make a man's life a continuing transit to the eternal truth, goodness, and beauty, and will eventually win the eternity of life. The essential difference of the ignorant person, the laity, the mortal, the sage, and the saint lies in the different remaining proportion of the ingredient in its own human nature. The fewer the ingredients, the more likely to locate in the state of animal world. The more the ingredients, the more likely to move towards the sage, the celestial, to become the celestial being, the God, and the Buddha. This is not the far-fetched false talk. As long as there is the relatively perfect quality of truth, goodness, and beauty in our human nature. Isn't it difficult to become a celestial being? The 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and Elysium world are the perfect world of truth, goodness, and beauty. If we can reach the perfect standard of truth, goodness, and beauty, it is not difficult for us to enter the high-level life space. Little strokes fell great oaks. Constant effort brings success. The pursuers of truth, goodness, and beauty need continuous gnosis and exploration, continuous insight into a profound theory. Things will be easily settled when conditions are ripe. Whether we can reach the perfect world of truth, goodness, and beauty completely depends on the secret of nature. A few tales of happiness. Xiefeng. It was a summer day in 1979 when I took advantage of my summer vacation to return from Zhangjiakou to my hometown. While on a ferry in the Lujiaxia Reservoir area, I recognized a familiar middle-aged villager from Dazai village. I had been a village official in a group of nearby villages for 3 years and had earned a good reputation in the hearts of the villagers, so the two of us started talking and I asked him about how his village had come along since I left. A few of his words are still fresh in my mind even now. He said, "Things are fine now, we have plenty of food to eat, and if we farmers continue to have enough food for the rest of our lives, then it will be a great blessing." Happiness is so simple. As long as you have enough to eat, you can be happy. It was a winter day in 1981 when Huang and I rode a train from Zhochuan back to our hometown to visit relatives in Linxia. There was no bullet train back then, so we rode on a slow, traditional train which stopped at every small station between Zhochuan and Lanzhou. It seemed to have stopped more than 50 times. As the Spring Festival was approaching, the train would be very crowded, and since it had come from Xinjiang, it was already very crowded when we boarded it. Even the aisles were full. When we got on the train, it was almost impossible for us to move forward, so we just stood still for 20 long hours. I clearly remember how I just wanted to lie down. Even gravel would have felt good. Happiness is quite simple. You will feel happy if you can lie down and sleep on a bed every night, even a hard one. It was an autumn day in 1997, and I was living at number 10 Mount Pleasant Forest Road, Harare, Zimbabwe. At that time, I had registered a company called Golden Crown Marketing, PTE Ltd. I had opened 2 stores 50 kilometers from my home, had traveled between the stores and my residence every day, and was constantly busy from dawn to dusk. I remember telling Huang that people are very happy when they have something to do with their lives, no matter how tired and exhausted it makes them. Therefore, happiness is actually very simple. You will be happy as long as you have something to keep you busy. It was a summer day in 2011 when I was standing on the second floor of the first branch of Lifuchanuan in Yunnan province, talking and laughing with my celestial brothers and sisters in the courtyard. A sense of happiness arose spontaneously as I understood that people are happy when there are many others accompanying them through their life's journeys. Happiness is so simple. You feel happy when others are with you. It was the winter of 2017 when Huang, Foyi, and I were living in the Pacific island country of Vanuatu. Our hut was only 10 meters from the sea, and even though it was ventilated on all sides, it was very hot and many mosquitoes lingered on all sides. So hot that I could not bear to cover myself with even a sheet, and I was being bitten constantly and mosquitoes would wake me up all night long. Small mice sometimes fell from the roof of the straw shed, but I thought at that time that if one could live in a house that would protect them from wind and rain and could sleep with a quilt at night without being bitten by mosquitoes, that would be a happy life. So, it is not difficult to be happy. As long as you have a room and can sleep under a quilt at night for protection, then you will be happy. An old legend tells of a group of unusual people who all once shared a miraculous power from birth. To contend for survival resources, these unusual people plunged common people into abysses of misery. Eventually, Empress Nuwa drove them into the netherworld. The worst thing about that place was its lack of water. No rivers, no springs, no lakes, and very little rainfall. Those unusual people had to endure thirst for thousands of years. At that time, the greatest hope of the king and his subjects in the netherworld was to get water and to be able to drink big mouthfuls of it. It is wonderful to have plenty of drinking water. Therefore, happiness is to have enough water to drink. To sum it up, happiness means having water to drink, food to eat, a room in which to live, a bed on which to sleep, being under a quilt at night, having something to do, and being accompanied by a group of wonderful people. Today is the first day of winter, and as I look up from my top floor, I see ice and snow everywhere. The sky and the earth have become completely white, and Lake Lahatch is already frozen. Except for some slight noise from vehicles passing occasionally on the Caribou Highway, RT97, no sound can be heard. This is the third winter I have spent in Canada, with last year's lowest temperature dipping to -29 degrees C, -20 degrees Fahrenheit, and the year before reaching -30 degrees Celsius, -22 degrees Fahrenheit. The British Columbia weather forecast shows that this Sunday, January 12, 2020, our highest temperature will be -26 degrees Celsius, -15 degrees Fahrenheit, and our lowest temperature will be -35 degrees Celsius, -31 degrees Fahrenheit. But I am very happy because I always have water to drink, food to eat, a room to live in with a bed to sleep on, a quilt to sleep under every night, something to stay busy with every day. And although I cannot be with my brothers and sisters physically, we accompany each other mentally and spiritually in the virtual world of cyberspace. I am the happiest person in the world. Have you found your happiness? A good upbringing and self-cultivation are required in the new oasis for life, and self-restraint is also required. Siefing. Upbringing is civilized politeness that is learned from family, school, and society. Self-cultivation is a civilized attitude towards others, which is developed from the level of theory, knowledge, art, thought, and other aspects that a person possesses. Self-restraint is the ability which a person with profound morals possesses to control one's emotions. We have already talked about upbringing and self-cultivation. This article will focus on the issue of self-restraint. A person who can't control his emotions is a person who has no self-restraint. This, pointing out others' defects and deficiencies, tornado in our home showed me that most of our brothers and sisters have self-restraint, which is mainly reflected in the calmness and humility of accepting suggestions and expressing gratitude when others point out their defects and deficiencies. If others point out our defects and deficiencies, not only will we not accept it, but we will also resist it and defend ourselves. This is a serious lack of self-restraint. People who lack upbringing will be thought of with disgust. People who lack self-cultivation will be despised, and people who lack self-restraint will be kept at a respectful distance. Even if the defects and deficiencies that others point out are not in line with the facts, if you defend yourself or resist, or even yell and talk about it everywhere, you are showing no self-restraint. It is clear that you have been misunderstood and misinterpreted, but if you must still accept it with a modest and calm attitude and express your gratitude, that is the expression of profound self-restraint. We can only sail in deep water, and only when we have self-restraint can people respect us and be willing to walk with us. How can we have self-restraint? Set up Mahayana's wish, great vow. Follow the ancient and modern saints. Do not treat yourself as noble. Do not lose your temper. Do not bully honest people. Do not make fun of others. Do not be unreasonable. Do not be unforgiving. Do not make casual promises. Do not impose your will on others. Do not cry and shout. Do not have loose lips. Do not shut yourself up. Do not ask for help easily. Do not make trouble without a reason. Do not interrupt others casually. Do not always teach others. Do not behave badly. Do not act grumpily. Do not look sloppy and messy. And do not hurt people with words. The future new oasis for life will no longer be like the original second home. You cannot stay long without a good upbringing, self-cultivation, and self-restraint. Please make the effort. Adorn your soul with a holy robe. Siefing. The beauty of the world is revealed through myriad things. The value of an item is shown through its function and purpose. The inner beauty of a person is reflected in their words and actions. The beauty of the soul is manifested through the light and colors it presents to the world. Let us clothe our souls in a sacred garment, radiant and translucent. This sacred garment is made of the following materials. Regardless of how dirty the surrounding world may be, maintain cleanliness. No matter how frenetic the world may be, remain calm and grounded. Never bully the honest, let alone deceive the weak. Never lose your temper with them. Never praise power. Never admire status. Never grovel before money. Speak without pretense. Act without being secretive or sneaky. Never engage in giving or accepting bribes. Never covet even a penny of ill-gotten gains. Rely solely on your own efforts for what you gain. Refuse any excess. Either speak the truth or remain silent. Always tell the truth. Treat guests with the best you have. Either avoid dealing with others or deal with them sincerely and genuinely. Once you make a promise, even if it costs you your life, fulfill it. Do not judge without understanding the facts and truth. Maintain the cleanliness and tidiness of yourself and your living environment. Grow vegetables, fruits, and grains untainted. Produce food without toxins. Do not let your soul be tainted by impurities for the sake of survival. Maintain the nobility, sanctity, purity, and elegance of your soul. Even if no one appreciates your pure soul, do not descend to the level of falsehood, evil, and ugliness. Even if evil forces push you to a dead end, do not bow down to them in submission. When light pierces through darkness and illuminates the earth, all will be revealed in their true forms. At that time, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. At that time, cattle will return to the pen, pigs to the sty, celestials to the celestial world, Buddhas to their pure land. All our efforts and dedications serve to accumulate merit for ourselves. Xiefeng. Truth must be fair. If it's not fair, it cannot be called truth. The pursuit of truth is the pursuit of justice. So, what is justice? Justice means that when a person gives and dedicates, they receive rewards. When a person commits wrongdoings, they must endure meticulous punishment. More precisely, the amount a person gives and dedicates should equal the compensation they receive. No more, no less. The amount a person reaps should match the effort they put in, without bias. Is there any evidence to prove the fairness of truth? There are three fact-based theories. One is the rule that the sum of positive and negative energy in the universe is zero. Another is the principle of conservation of energy. And the last is the law of cause and effect. You reap what you sow. The principles and laws of the universe ensure the balance of gain and loss and the mechanism of retribution and reward. Truth upholds fairness without delving into the morality or ethics of truthfulness, falsehood, good and evil, beauty, and ugliness. Truth is like a mirror, accurately reflecting everything. It shows us our current state. Whatever we are, the mirror projects our reality. If we are a horse, the mirror reflects a horse. If we are a wolf, undoubtedly, the mirror shows a wolf. Our current state is a reflection of our consciousness. If we all love peace, we will live in a peaceful and prosperous world. If we all love conflict, we will be in a world of endless strife and war. If we love nature, nature will be harmonious and bountiful. If we harm nature, nature will retaliate with hurricanes, hail, droughts, and floods. In the universe, no soul is wronged. Everything is a consequence of one's own actions, a web of one's own making. The reason we cannot see the ins and outs of karmic retribution is that we are mere mortals without Dharma eye or Buddha eye to see the karma of past, present, and future lives, let alone the karma of multiple lives and the afterlife. Hence our thinking is shackled by the phenomena of reality and blind to the truth. I cannot delve into the analysis of the factors behind the grand events in human history, especially the rise and fall of dynasties and the reasons behind the phenomenon of millions being killed during the transitions. I can only analyze and infer from the consciousness and current state of the people I have known throughout my life. Sometimes, I lie in bed and comb through each person, from childhood playmates to schoolmates in elementary and middle school, from colleagues in factories, schools, and offices after starting work, to friends made in business, from friends made in the secular world to the Chanyuan celestials of the second home of life Chanyuan. After extensive analysis, I have found the reasoning behind the principle that everyone's efforts and dedications are to accumulate merit for themselves, and there is not a single wronged soul in the world. Understanding this principle has many benefits. For example, in our interactions with others, regardless of their character, whether they are broad-minded and elegant or narrow-minded and rude, our efforts and dedications ultimately always return to us. On the surface, it seems that we give and others benefit, even taking advantage of us. In reality, we accumulate merit, and others dissipate their own blessings. The more blessings the recipient loses, the more merit the giver gains. Is accumulating merit useful? Merit is invisible and intangible. Is it just an illusion? Could it be deceptive preaching? In the past decade or so, I have interacted most with Chanyuan Celestials of Life Chanyuan. I observe them every day, their efforts and dedications, their every comment online, their every word and deed in the home. Even their every emotional change and attitude leaves an imprint in my heart. From this, I can generally predict who will eventually go to the Celestial Islands continent, who will go to the 10,000-year world, who will go to the 1,000-year world, who will return to the human world, and even other destinations. Divine punishments, though slow, are always sure, with big meshes, yet letting nothing slip through. The operation of Tao is meticulous, and truth is an absolutely fair existence. In a collective, any word spoken by anyone will lay down blessings or hidden dangers for themselves. Even an emotional expression will result in a consequence, especially a negative emotion, such as indifference, anger, rage, or hatred, will surely bring suffering one day in the future. Finally, a word for the readers. Do not worry about whether the people around you are enjoying blessings or suffering, whether they are idling or working hard. You just keep giving and dedicating joyfully, and heaven will surely not fail your efforts and dedications and will definitely give you corresponding compensation and rewards. Capture all the love masters and bring them into life Changyuan. Xiefeng. The love masters in the world are all seeds of super celestial beings, but they suffer double misfortunes due to falling into the mundane world. Now, Life Changyuan intends to capture all the love masters on Earth and arrest them to the Celestial Islands continent of the Elysium world to enjoy the celestial love life to their heart's content. For 5,000 years, human beings have been bound by ignorance and foolishness and have suppressed the most beautiful love of life under the 5 Elements Mountain. Now, I will remove the talisman on top of the 5 Elements Mountain and release the love that has been suppressed under it. Love is a precious gift that the greatest Creator has bestowed on life. A life without love cannot bring joy to the universe. It is just a walking corpse, a moving mummy. The more abundant the love life is, the more beautiful the soul, the gentler the character, the calmer the temper, the closer to the greatest Creator, and the more one understands how to love human life, love nature, love others. The more impoverished one's love life is, the uglier the soul, the more vicious the character, the more irritable the temper, the farther from the greatest Creator, and the less one loves life, loves human life, loves nature, and loves others. The lower the level of life, the more it lacks love. What is hell? A place without love is hell. The higher the level of life, the more abundant their love is. What is heaven? A place full of love is heaven. People without love cannot go to heaven. The 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, the Elysium world. They can only live a loveless life in hell. Without love, are you still human? Pigeons know how to coo. Cranes know how to dance gracefully. Parrots and swallows know how to twitter, let alone humans. Any system that stifles love is inhumane. Any heart that suppresses love is filthy. Any morality that represses love is evil and immoral. And any mentality of individual or group that strikes love is distorted. As long as we delve deep into the human inner world, we will discover that those women who are called unchaste, flirtatious, or slutty, those men who flirt with many women, and those genius who have multiple lovers are the most beautiful flowers in human beings, the most affectionate and natural, kind, gentle, and elegant people. They are the people who do not restrict the freedom of others, do not limit the happiness of others, and do not strike the happiness of others. Those who advocate for chaste morality, those who sink lovers into the pond, those who force people to hang themselves to commit suicide, those who turn blue in the face and purple all over with anger when seeing people in love and want to beat people to death, and those who sarcastically mock and ridicule age-gap marriage, those who establish moral barriers for love, those who specially pry into others' love privacy, those who defame others' love and blacken their reputations everywhere, and those who always use the guise of a gentleman to restrain love, These people are selfish, mean, greedy, and evil in their hearts. They are the demons and monsters in human beings and the calamities that cause human unhappiness. Love is elegant, beautiful, pure, kind, humane, moving, soul-stirring, inspiring, and wonderful. To become a celestial, one must first understand love, feel love, and enjoy love. If you view love as a fierce flood or beast, then you should give up on becoming celestial as early as possible. You cannot become a celestial. If you don't have love as a human, how can you understand it as a celestial? The life of a celestial is a life filled with rich, affectionate love. If you hate love, do you want to bring misery to the celestial world? The celestial world doesn't want the walking dead or mummies. When it comes to love, those with strong sexual desires immediately think of the transaction process between prostitutes and clients and associate it with debauchery. Let me tell you, that is lust, sexual desire, and animal instinct, but not love. True love is sacred, rich in affection, a dance of the soul, the sublimation of humanity, the trembling of the heart, and the perfect harmony of body and soul. May all love masters in the world come to Life at Chanyuan, where your delicate love pulse can only be felt by Chanyuan celestials, and only here can your buds of love blossom freely. What's the point of being with wooden people who cannot appreciate the beauty of blooming flowers, don't know to take a bath in rain when it's raining, be indifferent when the wind blows, or feel nothing when seeing the Mount Tai sunrise? Is life interesting that way? Love masters, come to Life at Chanyuan, strive to reach the peak of bliss. Rather than regretting, resenting, or suppressing, it's better to live gracefully. Chanyuan celestials are all love masters, willing to challenge all love masters in the world. If you dare not take up the challenge, then go ahead and cry silently. Exhaust yourself in the thorny jungle of love. Just pass your remaining life in cowardice. As long as you hold onto the hand of the greatest creator, you will have a rich love life. Chanyuan celestials must learn to forgive others. Xiefeng. In heaven, there is no hatred. One who carries hatred can never go to heaven. I came from the lowest space of heaven, thousand-year world, where hatred doesn't exist. There are only happiness, joy, and freedom. The fungus plant of a morning knows not the alternation of day and night. The cicada knows not the alternation of spring and autumn. Our lives are so short, 100 years pass like a moment. We don't even have enough time to pursue happiness, joy, and freedom. Why should we waste our precious time on anger and hatred? We have established the second home, now new oasis for life, which is the transfer station from the earth to heaven. Everything in the second home will be copied and practiced according to the life in thousand-year world. Those who have lived in the second home for quite long time have more or less experienced the beauty of heaven. I told everyone by fact that as long as you follow my map to heaven, you will not only get at thousand-year world one day, you can go further to 10,000-year world and the Elysium world. You must forgive others, which is the minimum requirement to enter heaven. Nobody is perfect, we ourselves are not perfect. Therefore, we could not avoid hurting others or being hurt in our lifetime. If we think from other people's perspective and feel for them, and as long as we treat others with sincerity and we forgive others, the door of heaven will be open for us. Do not take the past to your heart, which will merely consume your energy and precious time. It is not worthy to fuss over other people's imperfection. Even if you take revenge, it is just a satisfaction of your vanity, which is no value and used to your life quality and its sublimation. So please do not try to be a hero because that will damage your spiritual growth, and you will be looked down by others. If you take revenge, that means you are very mean and narrow-minded and will not be able to get well along with others. If you forgive others, I will also forgive you. If you cannot love your enemy, at least you should not hate your enemy. If you cannot get well along with your enemy, at least there should be no fight. Please forgive others and all those who have hurt us. You can have a try. If you forgive them from the deep of your heart, you will be brightened up and have a clear mind, and the road forward will be much broader and you will have more beautiful future. So please listen to me. This is also the teaching of Jesus Christ and Buddha Sakyamuni. You will benefit a lot from forgiveness, which has been proved by many facts and my own experiences. Chicken soup for the soul is an anesthetic. Xiefeng. Patients would suffer from unbearable pain if doctors did not give them either local anesthetics or even general anesthesia to allow them to remain calm during their surgical procedures. Anesthetics benefit people when they are used properly, but they are terrible when they are abused, overly used on a regular basis. When people are suffering from worry, pain, anxiety, or fear, and we numb their spirits and souls, they will be relieved of their temporary difficulties and survive. But if those parts of them become anesthetized too much, then they will become soulless, walking corpses. Chemicals cannot relieve human pain forever, and spiritual healing cannot eradicate their trouble, pain, anxiety, sorrow, and fear, and will eventually aggravate their sadness even more. Here are 4 examples to analyze several cases of chicken soup for people's souls to think about. When someone lacks self-confidence, the chicken soup for their soul is, "You are your own God." Analysis. This chicken soup for their soul make them feel great for a while, that they can control their own destinies, and that they are the masters of their universes. As a result, people who consume this chicken soup for their souls become blindly optimistic, arrogant, ignorant, shameless, and they will become mental patients over time. When someone feels like no one loves them, the chicken soup for their soul is, "You should love yourself. As long as you can do that, then the world will be filled with love." Analysis. The effect of this kind of chicken soup for their soul is to make them create illusions and feel that as long as they love themselves, then the world will love them whether the world really does or not. And that as long as they love themselves, the plot of the whole world will turn over and become captive to their love. The result is that they will become more selfish and completely ignore the cruelty of reality. If a person was originally a slacker, then by loving themselves, they will become lazier and lazier. The more that dogs love themselves, the more they become themselves. When someone is disgusted by their surroundings, the chicken soup for their soul is, "You must accept everything." Analysis. After drinking this chicken soup for their soul, they instantly feel that the world is vast, that they rule 100 valleys, and their hearts are widened. As a result, they turn themselves into a dump because dumping sites will absorb everything. When someone feels lost and faces their environments pessimistically, this kind of chicken soup for their soul works well. Look inward, because what you have there decides everything. Analysis. After drinking this kind of chicken soup for their soul, they can calm down and feel that they have been saved. They feel that so long as they look inward, they can solve all the problems that they are facing. The bread will have of, the milk will also have of, as if to become a god is just a piece of cake and the whole world is under their control. The result is that after a long period of seeking inwardly, they will not find villas and supercars or beauty and delicacies, let alone God, Buddha, celestials, saints, or heaven. Gradually, they will finally become expressionless and numb and become more and more separated from the outside world until they become haggard. Such chicken soup for the soul is now full of roads on social media, and this is a sign of the nation's decline because chicken soup for the soul is an anesthetic and will become ineffective after prolonged use. A poor, hungry, emaciated, and malnourished beggar, with a shallow complexion and looking dull, was sitting and worrying on the sidewalk as 4 wise people brought with advice. A nutritionist came along and said to supplement their nutrition by eating more mutton soup and better eat a bowl of bird's nest porridge every day. After a while, a kind-hearted soul came over and said, "It seems that you are not in good shape. It is said that there is a wise personal trainer in America, so do not waste your time sitting here. Hurry up and fly to America to find that specialist for some conditioning." Later, a master came and said, "Look inside yourself. You have all kinds of delicacies and Manchu Han imperial feasts inside yourself. If you concentrate on seeking inwardly, you will have ample food and clothing." Later, an even more enlightened master came and said not to worry about the present. You are your own God. You must love yourself first, then you will be famous all over the world. Those 4 people were all offering chicken soup for the beggar's soul. Collective life is superior to individual life. Xiefeng. The collective life discussed here refers to a mode of existence in which many people live together according to communist principles. The individual life mentioned here is defined as a mode of existence in which each person lives independently according to capitalist principles. Family life is capitalist in nature, although it takes the form of communism. Individual life befits the selfish person, while collective life is ideal for unselfish people. If you are barbarous, ignorant, selfish, narrow-minded, insidious, jealous, resentful, and have bad habits, then you had better live an individual life. On the other hand, if you are civilized, well-educated, public-minded and unselfish, open-minded, kind, loving, and merciful, and are free of mental or physiological defections, then collective life suits you the best. The collective life is superior to individual life mainly in the following 8 aspects. Collective life is more colorful than individual life. People leading a collective life are less likely to suffer depression and other mental illnesses. Collective life is safer than individual life and has less anxiety and fear. Collective life is not monotonous and tedious. Individual life often leads to depression and isolation. Collective life allows people to have more leisure time for entertainment and cultivation because of the division of labor and cooperation. Collective life offers more opportunity of communication, and thus people have fewer restrictions and checks against each other and enjoy greater freedom. Collective life operates on the principle of sharing weal and woe between members, and thus people have less pressure of life and can achieve happiness more easily. Collective life is the necessary road that leads life to higher level of life spaces. Individual life may induce selfishness and thus makes it difficult for people to ascend to the heavenly kingdom. Jesus Christ warns us that it is more difficult for wealthy people to go to the paradise than for the camel to pass through the hole of the needle. Why? Because wealthy people are not willing to lead a collective life. Wealthy people would not have others share their happiness. It is absolutely impossible for a person to go to the heavenly kingdom if he or she is not willing to share his wealth with others, because life in there is not individual life but collective life. There are neither rich people nor poor people in the heavenly kingdom. Only those who love collective life and blend themselves in the collective life can have the hope to enter the paradise. The more perfect non-material structure of life a person has, the greater love and passion this person will have for collective life. The more flawed non-material structure of life a person has, the greater love and passion this person will have for individual life, and the more difficult it is for him to blend into collective life. It is based upon profound and sound consideration that Life Genuine puts forward the proposal that Chanyuan Celestials lead a collective life. Cultivation is conducted completely in accordance with the need of heavenly kingdom and the teachings of Jesus Christ and Buddha Sakyamuni. Life Genuine is leading people to live in heavenly kingdom in an all-round manner. It is necessary not only to be sensible, increase wisdom, enhance the taste of life, we must also continuously promote the consciousness of paradise in our daily life, and develop and form the good habit to familiarize ourselves with and adapt to the life in heavenly kingdom. Whether Xiefeng has spoken the truth, you can tell it from your own heart. You can read about the thoughts of all saints and sages in history. You can check it against and contrast it with the teachings of Jesus Christ, of Buddha Sakyamuni, and of celestial being Lao Tzu. You can use your spiritual perception. If you have done these seriously, you will understand why Life Genuine asks that everyone long for collective life and live a collective life. Not everyone is qualified or meets the condition to lead the collective life. A person that has not been influenced by the values of Life Genuine will find it difficult to live in collective life and will soon be eliminated. A selfish, arrogant, irrational, narrow-minded, faulty, mentally and psychologically handicapped, dishonest, and ill-bred person will find it very difficult to stay in the second home, now new oasis for life, of Life Genuine for a long time, because his or her selfish and arrogant structure of consciousness does not match the collective structure of sharing weal and woe, and he cannot put up with the bondage of the collective atmosphere. Whether you can live harmoniously in a collective life is the best touchstone to check which level, realm, and state a person has achieved in self-refinement and cultivation. This is not decided by how glib a tongue you have or how good a form you can put up. What matters is your inner mind. If you love collective life from the bottom of your heart and can smoothly blend into collective life, then you have achieved a lot in cultivation. Otherwise, you have not got anywhere in cultivation. You might have been led astray. Just feel for yourself and gain the understanding that collective life is superior to individual life. 集体生活是最好的修道场. Collective life is the best way to cultivate Tao. The extent of a person's self-refinery and self-improvement can be best examined by the collective life. What most ascetics in the world cultivate is only pet phrase and method of argument, just like an armchair strategist who divorces from reality and acts blindly. One cannot prove sufficiently that he or she has really promoted his or her spiritual nature, or that he or she has a more perfect structure of life, simply by judging how long one has engaged in self-cultivation, how many books on self-improvement one has read, how many books on self-refinery and self-improvement one has written, how beautiful the article is, how convincingly one has been talking, how long one has stayed in churches or temples, and how many activities one has taken part in, or how many beautiful words one has said on network forums for self-cultivation. Many people have deep theoretical knowledge and can talk eloquently, but when it comes to practical problems, they often handle them in an approach that runs counter to what they have preached. They talk eloquently to others only to fish for fame and compliments, and will not let themselves be guided by what they have talked. To know what level of cultivation and refinery one has attained, he or she must undergo the process of verification in real life. And participating in collective life offers the simplest, most direct, and most effective way of verification. Suppose 100 people are living together a communist life. The soul of each person will be reflected incisively and vividly. The moral character of a person can be seen clearly in the collective life. Generally speaking, in a small family, people will maintain a clean and tidy family environment. But once living in a collective, these same people who maintain a clean and tidy family environment will change. The dirty public toilet is just one example. At home, people are most frugal in the use of water, electricity, toilet paper, and the like. However, once in a collective, they will not be so frugal. On the contrary, they may be very lavish. The core of self-refinery and self-cultivation is nature, love, and Tao. Now people know that love is one core component of self-refinery and self-cultivation. It is extremely easy to talk about love in network, in speeches, and in articles, but can love be shown when a practical problem arises? In such a situation, will one love others in the same manner that he loves himself? It is one matter for one person to live all by oneself, but quite a different one for two people to live together. Living in a small family is different from living in a big family. A person with a beautiful heart and soul can live naturally and peacefully either by oneself or in a collective, while a person with a flawed heart and soul may live normally all by oneself, but will have trouble when living with another person, and is totally incompatible with a collective life, where he or she may become the source of disputes. The lack of collective life in this world has made it difficult for people to quickly optimize their souls. Without the tempering and test of collective life, it will be difficult for a person to perfect his or her soul. Without the examination of collective life, no one can be clear whether his or her soul is relatively perfect. Collective life is the best venue for the cultivation of Tao. Without collective life, all one's cultivation and self-refinery may prove only to be futile pet phrases, no matter how long he or she has been engaged in self-cultivation, including the practice of various skills, no matter how proficient he or she is in theory, or no matter how many profound mysteries he or she has grasped, because he or she does not know where the cultivation is leading. The selfish person has absolutely no luck to enter the paradise. Whether one is selfish or not will become clear once the person enters the collective life. Collective life may easily reveal what level one has reached in self-refinery and self-improvement. In addition, a solitary figure may vary in moral character. To retain Tao, one must temper oneself in collective life. Complaint is a poisonous arrow. When things are not going as one has expected or imagined, one will feel extremely uncomfortable and thus unleash implicitly or explicitly one's dissatisfaction upon the people who he or she thinks is the cause for his or her dissatisfaction, so as to express his or her grievances and anger. This feeling or behavior is called complaining. Complaint occurs mainly between husband and wife, between colleagues, partners, superiors and subordinates, between parents and children, between sisters and brothers, and between neighbors. If jealousy is a poison that hurts oneself, complaint is a poisonous arrow that hurts others. Complaints are one of the major causes for the tension, conflicts, contradictions, ruined relations, and violent fights between husband and wife, colleagues, partners, superiors and subordinates, between parents and children, between sisters and brothers, and between neighbors. Complaint is the maltreatment of others' spirit and soul. The more civilized and better educated the people are, the more deeply they will be hurt. A person who is always the object of complaint cannot live a life of his own style. Even worse, such complaints can cause a distorted and abnormal mentality, inexplicable loss of temper, the loss of confidence in future, the dejection, the resentment and desperation, and even suicide. The complaints among relatives against each other can cause more severe injury to people's spirit and soul. The most frequent complaints occur between husband and wife. The endless babbling, nagging, and complaining can cast a shadow over the family, will severely affect the physical and spiritual well-being of family members, and especially will have adverse effect on children. Complaints have been the greatest cause for a member to run away from home. Here, let me give a few examples of complaints. Why are you always so irrational? Can you let me alone and have some peace? Would you end up in trouble and distress of today if you had followed my advice? I have told you again and again, but you would never listen. I would be more than blessed if you were like Xiao Wang. Why can't you draw lessons from past mistakes? You are making the same mistakes again and again. It's all your fault if it were not for you. Should things have fared so badly? He is such a useless person who can never do anything well. If it were not for you, I would not have been landed in such a miserable situation. It's all your fault. All these are complaints, which are extremely harmful. A person who complains against others always believes that he is in reason, he is in the right, and he is wiser than others. Actually, it is only latterwit. He shifts all the blames onto the other person to ensure his own peace of mind, which is a sign of selfishness. Thus, few people who complain against others are sane themselves. They are born with a deficiency of a heart of mercy. What is there to complain about? Everyone has his strengths and weaknesses, everyone is faced with his own difficulties, and has the objective causes for not having done something well. Something may be as easy for someone as turning his palm over, but may be extremely difficult for others, for whom the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak. So mutual understanding and consideration are needed. The purpose of life is to attain joy, happiness, freedom, and blessing. Can complaining bring you the joy and happiness? Do what you should do and take the road that you should take. Why do you have to complain against others? Do not keep raking up the unhappy things in the past, unless you want others to suffer and wish to maltreat and punish them. A husband and wife can break company in a good manner instead of complaining endlessly if they feel incompatible with each other, thus letting each other go their own way. There is no need to subject each other to the maltreatment and torture of soul and spirit every day. In the paradise there is no jealousy. In the same way, there is no complaining in the 1,000-year world, 10,000-year world, and celestial island continent of the paradise. All those wishing to have a beautiful future and long for the heavenly kingdom must not be jealous of each other, and must not complain against each other. It is absolutely impossible to go to the heavenly kingdom if those engaged in self-cultivation and self-refinery do not get rid of jealousy and complaining. Man is a solitary traveler. Everyone should bear consequence for everything he does. It is not reasonable at all to complain against others. We should understand how wonderful it is to have someone accompany us on our journey of life. It simply does not matter if we have screwed things up. Life itself is a game. No matter what happens, what really counts is to have a joyful and happy life. A happy and joyful person has only one reason to be happy, but an unhappy and depressed person may have thousands of reasons to be unhappy. Conscience, the mark of the deficiency of conscience. Shuifeng, good conscience, as is suggested by its name, means a kind heart. Man is distinguished from birds and beasts in that man has a conscience. Without a conscience, a man is no different from birds and beasts. The real connotation of conscience. An invisible self-disciplinary moral court rooted by the greatest creator in the life structure of man to enable man to congenitally distinguish between right and wrong and good and evil. Conscience is the natural attributes possessed by man. Like the eyes of a person, conscience has nothing to do with a person's position, fame, property, appearance, age, gender, knowledge, and wisdom. Conscience is a natural norm to maintain the harmony between man and God, man and nature, man and society, and man. Once conscience is absent, there will occur a series of conflicts and contradictions between man and God, man and nature, man and society, and man. Whether a person has a good conscience or not will decide whether he has a good quality and taste. Conscience is an extension of nature of origin, which neither grows nor dies, neither defile nor purifies, and neither increases nor decreases, and which has no perception and thinking, no eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and ideas, no color, sound, fragrance, tastes and touch, no outlook and accordingly no consciousness, no ignorance and no end of ignorance, no death and no end of death, no destruction of Tao, no wisdom and no gain. With the conscience, there will be birth and death, filth and cleanness, increase and decease, perception and thinking, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and ideas, color, sound, fragrance, tastes and touch, outlook and accordingly consciousness, ignorance and end of ignorance, death and end of death, destruction of Tao, wisdom and gain. This is comparable to water, which has the same attribute all over the world, but will take on the attributes of solid, liquid, and gas when temperature changes. Conscience is an attribute rooted in the non-material structure of life. Different life forms have different attributes. The nature of man is originally the same, however, because of the difference in social environment and mechanism and the different sources of man and man are distinguished from each other in the different degrees of goodness of conscience. This is like a tree. Some of its leaves are covered with dirt and thus could not take on their own colors, while other leaves are clean and thus can show their true colors. Conscience is a person's self-disciplinary moral court, which exercises restrictions over his or her actions and words. Without the restrictions of this self-disciplinary moral court, the person may act willfully and stop at no evil, will act in a foolhardy manner and disregard justice, will swell in selfish desire and disregard reason, and will hurt nature and others by hook and crook. Guilty feeling has its source in conscience. Guilty feeling is the shame complex resulting from failure in a suit of self-trial in the self-disciplinary moral court. Without the trial of conscience, the self-disciplinary moral court, man will never have a guilty feeling. If everyone has a good conscience, all the constitutions, laws, statutes and regulations, and rules and commandments prescribed by the society will only be superfluous. Since some people do not have a good conscience, the society has no choice but to lay down constitutions, laws, statutes and regulations, and rules and commandments to exercise restrictions, and the society has no choice but to establish visible courts to exercise judgment of people's behavior. Perfect conscience is the symbol of a person's pure and beautiful soul. Since the structures of life forms at different order of life are different, whether a person has a perfect or deficient conscience can predict the future direction of this person's life. A person with a perfect conscience will undoubtedly walk toward the heavenly kingdom, and a person whose conscience is deficient will most surely walk toward the lower order of life, for example, the animal world or hell. Keep a good conscience, and you will be infinitely blessed. The symbols of deficient conscience. The following phenomena are the symbols of a deficient conscience. Insult and maltreat parents. Desecrate the greatest creator, God and Buddhas. Cause scourge to people's mind in the name of the greatest creator, God, Buddha, and Spirit. Insult ancestors. Abandon underage children. Requite kindness with enmity. Insult and attack teachers and masters. Punish one's own relations. Do not keep promises and contracts. Pollute the earth, the air, the river, the lake, and the sea. 11. Randomly fell trees and destroy grass and flowers. Randomly maltreat and slaughter animals. Cause damage to a developing embryo. Destroy a bird's nest and a beast's den, and unearth other people's ancestral tombs. Plunder others' property. Steal, pilfer, rob, rape, oppress, exploit, blackmail other people, take advantage of others' precarious position, corrupt and accept bribes. 16. Extravagance and luxury. 17. Intrusion into private residence, forced and unauthorized entrance into private space. Destroy others' homestead. 19. Lynching. Lie, deceive, and swindle and bluff. 21. Launch indecent assault against children and entice children. 22. Make and sell fake medicine and food. Plagiarize others' achievements. Or disseminate superstition, damage others' property, propagate monster and demons, poison souls. Make colossal profit. 26. Give short measure and take substandard products as fine products. Bully those who have no kin and cannot support themselves. Instigate and abet others to contend, struggle, and rob. 9. Take away other people's favorite objects. 30. Purposely sabotage public property. 31. Force the good person into prostitution and shift the misfortune into others. 32. Help a villain do evil. Chuck one's weight. About 33. Make false testimony or expose others' privacy. 35. Restrict, hinder, and deprive others' personal freedom. 36. Laziness and greed. 37. Secretly stab the back. 38. Employ artful trickery to appropriate other people's properties. Conscience is the touchstone to test whether a person has a perfect soul, a watershed to test the fruits a person has achieved in self-refinery and self-cultivation, and the best proof to predict whether a person is entitled to walk toward the heavenly kingdom. Keep a good conscience, and you will be infinitely blessed. Abandon the good conscience, and you will be plagued with disasters. Continuing to talk about the sublimation of life quality. Xiefeng. The holographic theory of the universe tells us that everyone has divinity, devil nature, Buddha nature, celestial nature, demon nature, human nature, ghost nature, and animal nature. That is, a grain of sand is a world. A single leaf is a Buddha's enlightenment. From animal nature to human nature, from human nature to celestial and Buddha nature, and from celestial and Buddha nature to divinity, it is called the sublimation of life quality. I want to talk about ascending from human nature to celestial nature. How to ascend from human nature to celestial nature. So, we need to understand what human nature and celestial nature are. The characteristics of human nature are selfishness, self-interest, focusing only on the present, valuing material interests, pursuing money, power, status, and reputation, maximally obtaining and possessing resources, not only natural resources but also social and sexual resources. As humans, we always consider our own interests in relation to others, society, and nature. In the face of interests, humans do not consider the law and emotions. Humans lie, deceive, speculate, engage in conspiracies, and harm life. As humans, we are always jealous, comparative, angry, hateful, arrogant, inferior, and excessively greedy. We can also be sad, anxious, worried, and fearful. The characteristics of celestial nature are selflessness, carefreeness, without worries, hate, or regret. It values spiritual and soul abundance. They take things as they are, associate with others by following naturally come-and-go relations, act in accordance with their natures, and take advantage of opportunities as they arise. They feel content no matter where they are, what they encounter, or what they are doing. They follow their own nature, do not possess any resources, do not control anyone or anything, do not establish a special relationship with anyone, do not join any organization or religion, and have no concept of nationality, country, religion, or political party. They respect the Creator, respect life, and respect nature. They do not harm any life and possess nothing but have everything. Having a clear understanding of the difference between human nature and celestial nature gives us direction and goals for our efforts. I have written hundreds of articles on how to ascend from human nature to celestial nature, which you can refer to. In this article, I will repeat and add some content. First of all, you must step out of the traditional production and life mode and enter a new production and life mode. Otherwise, there is almost no possibility of success in all your efforts. For example, to achieve possessing nothing yet having everything. This is impossible in the traditional production and life mode. Once you possess nothing, you may starve to death. Only by entering a new production and life mode will you not only avoid starving to death, but also have everything. Therefore, the expectation of ascending life quality through practice and cultivation while living in a traditional life mode is like trying to lift oneself into the sky by pulling one's own hair, which is almost impossible. It can be said that any practice and cultivation without stepping out of the traditional production and life mode is almost blind and futile, and it is only self-deception. The sublimation of life is achieved through gradual efforts. Shouting slogans is useless. Reading all the classics is useless. Writing millions of words of theoretical articles is useless. Building how many churches, temples, and Taoist temples is useless. Helping how many people and saving how many lives is useless. Following how many masters is useless. Being praised by how many people is useless. Donating to how many charities is useless. Inventing and creating how many high-tech products that benefit humanity is also useless. Having wealth, being a high-ranking official and creating blessings for the people is useless. These can only prove that you have accumulated merits, but cannot prove that your human nature has been sublimated into divine nature. To be what you want to be, you must become that thing. If you want to be a big cabbage, you must become a big cabbage. If you want to be the sun, you must become the sun. I will give some examples to explain what gradual efforts are. If you usually live in a villa, and one day you are asked to live in a straw hut with no more than wheatgrass beneath you instead of a comfortable mattress, how do you feel? If you feel uncomfortable and unhappy, it means your life quality is still based on human nature, not celestial nature. If you feel interested, have fun, and are very happy, it proves that you have transcended human nature and already possess celestial nature. If you usually eat high-end delicacies and one day you are asked to eat plain boiled cabbage and potatoes without any salt, if you find it difficult to swallow, it means that you only have human nature, not celestial nature. If you still enjoy it and feel grateful, you have already transcended human nature and own celestial nature. If you discover that someone you like is playing and having sex with someone of your gender, and you feel jealous, angry, or even furious, without a doubt, it is just human nature. On the contrary, if you sincerely bless the person you like in your heart and feel joy, your life nature is celestial. If one day you discover that someone you know well and have a good relationship with has cheated you and taken away all your money, how do you feel? If you get angry and want to curse, beat, or even kill them, then you have human nature. If you are indifferent, don't care, or even think to yourself, poor person, he will be taken away by the devil. I wish him the best of luck in turning things around. At that moment, you are no longer human, you are celestial. Someone trusts you completely, no matter what you do, they trust you unconditionally. As a result, you often secretly do things that they are not aware of. Let me tell you, you are human and not a celestial. Deceiving and betraying someone's trust makes you a fraud. Even if no one in the world knows that you have secretly deceived them, not even the greatest creator knows that you have betrayed someone's trust in you, your quality of life will not be enhanced in any way. When you flatter and praise someone for your own benefit and act obedient and submissive, but secretly curse them in your heart, I really want to kick this guy, and often go against their wishes behind their back. This shows that you are still human, not celestial. I just gave a few examples, but there are thousands more like them. I just want to tell everyone that a person's quality of life is reflected in thousands of details. If the details are not up to standard, it is no use, no matter how loud the slogans are. Even if they have fooled heaven and the earth by perfect pretending, the result is that one's quality of life cannot be enhanced, and ultimately one cannot reach heaven. Cultivate telepathy. Shuefeng. Mom's voice is most pleasing and most secure. Moms will bring us safety, comfort, peace, luck, consolation, and hope. Babies know the voices of their mothers without thinking because they are capable of telepathy. Lying in the arms of Jesus is like lying in the arms of our mothers, and we need telepathy to feel all this. Holding the hand of Buddha Sakyamuni is like holding the hand of Mother, because we know that the kind and merciful Buddha will lead us to happiness instead of evil. We need telepathy to feel all this. Following the Prophet Muhammad is like following our own others, because he will risk his own life to fight against devils and help us. We need telepathy to feel all this. Listening to the teachings of Lao Tzu is like listening to the whispering of our mothers, because he is imparting wisdom to us and nurturing us. We need telepathy to feel all this. The universe is of Taiji structure. The sum of positive and negative energies is zero. Therefore, the power of good, however tremendous it might be, is counterbalanced by the power of evil. The acting force is equal to the reaction force, but the two forces run counter to each other in the same straight line. The greater your determination to find a way to the heavenly kingdom, the larger resistance you will encounter. You must be vigilant against the wise people or people practicing magical arts, because they are probably the mouthpiece for devils. You must watch out for people capable of communicating with psychic energy because they will confuse your soul and bring you into a puzzling and chaotic world. You must beware of those who speak insolently because they are sons and grandsons of devils. You must keep a distance from this consumed by jealousy because they have an ugly soul. Do not wallow in the mire with evil persons because they will pollute your souls and ultimately destroy your life. Do not allow yourself to be led by the nose as to what is good and what is bad. You must depend on your telepathy. Daily prayer against plague God 008. Xiefeng. Heaven knows me. All gods understand me. Heaven and earth watch my actions. Though the plague god emerges, I remain at peace. Natural laws show the justice of clear rewards and punishments. Whether I receive blessings or disasters is up to the gods. With no fear for my merits or faults. Neither complaining nor hating, as all result from karma. Even the sun and moon must run along their trajectories. I pray for the greatest Creator's forgiveness. I repent all my faults sincerely and no more wrongdoings. Surely, I will follow you if I can pass through this trial. No more destroying living beings or craving worldly delights. I will treat as I expect to be treated and protect all life. I feel the pain of other beings and revere life. No longer losing my temper, but treating everyone with kindness. Far from anger, taking all things as they are, and following my destiny. Always dealing kindly with predestined relationships, releasing all karma and defusing all resentment. Neither fighting nor robbing, I will believe in the justice of Tao. Neither stealing nor swindling, I will be frank and righteous. Not involving with illicit sexual relations, I will shield my mind and body with kindness and goodness. I will never have an ego, never bully or control the weak, nor gain extra advantage. I will be just and abide by laws without any desire for that which is not mine. I will never produce impure or poisonous things. I will keep my mind clear and bright and be faithful to my words at all times. I will never gather movable property, but keep my mind clean. Revering gods and Buddha, my path will be smooth and bright. Listening to saints and celestials, adversity will become prosperity. With virtue, my blessings will always exceed my desires. Never again will words from my mouth hurt others. No more steps will be taken along evil paths. All of my mind's thoughts will be based on love for all beings. I will conduct myself honestly. Once the roots are established, the path will lead straight. Divine meshes are large, but with no gaps. God shall test my heart and crumble my bones if I do evil again. As I pray more to the ancestor of Buddha, show me pity and keep the plague from my door. I will be righteous as I pray for all gods to bless me. I will observe Life-Genuine values and follow the guide's lead, and associate with celestials to elevate my life towards heaven. My heart is now clear, pure, quiet, joyous, and with gratitude and a bright future ahead. Diagnose whether you have a spiritual illness. Xiefeng. March 31st, 2024. It's normal for humans to experience physical, mental, and spiritual illnesses, but when these conditions become severe, they require treatment to ensure a happy life. Of these, spiritual illness is the most hidden yet most impactful on life. It affects both mind and body, but with a healthy spirit, one can still lead a good life despite other illnesses. In fact, a truly healthy spirit makes it difficult to suffer from mental or physical ailments. Thus, it's crucial to maintain spiritual health. Here are some indicators of spiritual illness. blaspheming against the greatest creator, gods, Buddhas, saints, and ancestors. Idolizing power, chasing wealth, and ignoring family, friends, and laws. Being insensitive to the pain of nature and life, showing no compassion when harming or killing animals. Enjoying horror, disaster, war, and gunfight movies, lacking compassion when seeing death and bloody scenes. Lack of respect. Respecting the elderly and loving the young is not just a moral concept, but a natural human sentiment. One should be respectful to the elderly, teachers, masters, and superiors. Respect does not mean blind obedience. It is merely a display of one's education, cultivation, and refinement. Lack of awe. Fearless of heaven and earth, not afraid of divine punishment or karmic retribution, acting on whims. Lack of faith, ideals, or a sense of morality, driven only by obedience and profit. Being closed-minded and conservative, discriminating against outsiders, arrogant, resentful, envious, desiring unearned gains, and hoping to get rich overnight. Spiritual illness can lead to a series of problems. Firstly, it will cause great harm to oneself, leading to a life full of obstacles and even disasters. It will cause society to be unstable and fraught with crises. Secondly, it will lead to disorder in nature, abnormal heat and cold, frequent droughts and floods, wildfires, hurricanes, insect plagues, locust plagues, and viruses. Please pay attention and explore. Those with a healthy spirit rarely get sick and have a life full of good fortune. Nations with a healthy collective spirit are peaceful, tranquil, and civilized. Conversely, if a person's life is full of obstacles, they definitely have a spiritual illness. If a nation suffers from many disasters, it is certain that the nation as a whole has a spiritual illness. Everything visible is determined by invisible factors. Spiritual illness is invisible, but it determines the difficulties in our reality and a series of annoyances, pains, and disasters. May everyone possess a healthy spirit for a heavenly future. Discussing with Dajin Celestial the people and events that enter one's life. Xiefeng, some say, the people and events that enter our lives are there to fulfill us. I say that the true, good, beautiful, loving, trustworthy, and sincere individuals and events that come into our lives are there to fulfill us. Conversely, the fake, evil, ugly, hateful, deceitful, and hollow individuals and events that enter our lives are there to pull us towards hell. The Jin Celestial believes that if the viewpoint, the people and events that come into our lives are there to fulfill us is invalid, is incorrect, consequently, the Chanyuan value of the world is faultless. All faults lie within us is also invalid and mistaken. She further explains that beautiful things can fulfill us because a part of our soul is inherently good and kind. Similarly, ugly things can also fulfill us as they reveal the parts of our soul needing rectification. We no longer oppose the external world but introspectively correct ourselves. In doing so, the fulfillment gained in that moment stands firm. The Jin Celestial's inclination to present different or even opposing viewpoints, stemming from thoughtful analysis, deserves recognition and praise. Only truths entirely comprehended can become guiding principles and beliefs one consciously and willingly acts upon in their life's journey. Any truth not understood, regardless of its correctness, becomes a stepping stone easily discarded when faced with personal interests and turmoil. Regarding whether all the people and events that come into our lives are there to fulfill us, I've analyzed and negated this perspective in my article. Are the people and events that come into your life meant to fulfill you? Now, let's discuss whether rejecting this viewpoint also rejects the Chanyuan value of the world is faultless. All faults lie within us. Old Wang called Little Lu, informing him of a quick opportunity to amass wealth. Excitedly, Little Lu requested a meeting. After the meeting, Old Wang advised Little Lu to sell his house to invest in the Overnight Wealth Global Financial Company, promising a doubling of profits within a year with a $100,000 investment. Overwhelmed by excitement, Little Lu invested $1 million, dreaming of turning it into $2 million in a year, so that he no longer needs to work, but merely to reap profits. However, a year later, Not only did little Lou not gain any profit, but he could not even retrieve the initial investment. The overnight wealth global financial company had collapsed, and the CEO vanished with everyone's investments. Now, we must ask, are the people who come into our lives there to fulfill us, or do they lead us into suffering? Furthermore, where does the fault lie? Is it with the overnight wealth financial company, Old Wong, or is it within little Lou himself? So, Dejin Celestial, in presenting such a straightforward example, do you believe that rejecting the viewpoint that the people and events that come into our lives are there to fulfill us simultaneously rejects the value of the world is faultless? All faults lie within us? Clearly not. The overnight wealth global financial company is not at fault. They indeed amassed wealth overnight. Old Wong is not at fault. He gained some benefits. The fault lies within little Lou, blinded by greed, wanting something for nothing, wanting the moon. Beautiful things can fulfill us. Ugly things can also fulfill us. This is Daijin Celestial's perspective, and I admit it's valid. Many ugly things can serve as negative examples, teaching us how to properly handle the people and events that come into our lives. In this regard, ugly things can fulfill a person. For instance, Old Wong's arrival and the investment fulfilled little Lou by teaching him a lesson. He no longer dreams of getting rich overnight, but lives a grounded life. Yet, I ask the reader, do you wish to be like little Lou, losing everything? Do you want such an ugly event to fulfill you? If you do, then we're not on the same wavelength. It's futile to say more. I can only wish that ugly people and events accompany your life extensively, fulfilling you. If you do not, then why not? Didn't you say that ugly things can also fulfill you? If ugly things can fulfill you, why do you not welcome them daily? Evidently, ugly people and events don't fulfill us. They corrupt us. Many people, driven by ugly people and events, commit suicide. Do we then believe that these ugly people and events finally fulfilled those individuals by leading them to suicide? Should we be grateful to the ugly people and events? Can beautiful people and events lead someone to suicide? Remember, ugly people and events only corrupt, not fulfill. If one cannot grasp this fundamental understanding, barbarism, fatuity, ignorance, and darkness will accompany their life journey. Why seek light, civilization, justice, kindness, or paradise? Hell is so ugly. Why not dwell there since even the ugly can fulfill you? Do not let jealousy hoodwink the spiritual eye. Shuefeng. Man has 6 perception systems: vision, hearing, olfaction, taste, touch, and spiritual perception, through which man can perceive and understand the world around and the matter that transcends time and space. The fault with any perception system can render us incapable of completely understanding the real situation around us and in the universe. In another word, if we have lost vision, hearing, olfaction, taste, touch, or spiritual perception, then our consciousness cannot truly reflect the objective world. If our eyes are hoodwinked, we have lost our vision, and we can no longer see the infinitely colorful world. If our souls are hoodwinked, our spiritual perception is lost, and we can no longer distinguish between right and wrong, truth and falsehood, and good and evil, and we cannot see the non-material world, and even worse, we can no longer see the greatest creator. If we cannot see anything in the material world, it proves that our naked eyes have gone wrong, are blind, closed, or hoodwinked. If we cannot see anything in the non-material world, it shows that something has gone wrong with our spiritual eyes, which are either blind, closed, or hoodwinked. Everyone has spiritual eyes. Man is equipped with this program. Everyone has spiritual perception. The only difference is the sensitivity. The differences between the ignorant person, the laity, the mortal, the sage, and the celestial being lie mainly in the differences in spiritual perception. The more retarded one is in spiritual perception, the more closely he inclines toward an ignorant person. The more sensitive one is, the more closely he inclines toward a celestial being. To open the spiritual eyes and restore the spiritual perception is the main means by which we move toward the higher order of life through self-cultivation and self-refinery. How can we open our spiritual eyes? The teachings of Jesus Christ and Buddha are the talisman to open the spiritual eyes, and the greatest creator, revelation, wisdom, and unconventional thinking. Note, they are chapters of Chanyuan Corpus, are the stepping stones to open the spiritual eyes. How can we restore our spiritual perception? Spiritual perception is itself like a mirror, which does not need us to add anything to it. We need only be diligent in wiping the dust off it. Where is the dust? What is dust? How can we wipe off the dust? What has hoodwinked our spiritual eyes? If our six senses are not clean, it will be difficult to open our spiritual eyes. The six senses refer to eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. That our six senses are not clean means that we have evil in our mind, which prevents us from seeing what we should have seen but allows us to see what we should not have seen, which prevents us from hearing what we should have heard but allows us to hear what we should not have heard, and which prevents from contemplating what we should think over but allows us to contemplate what we should not have thought over. Thus, Buddha warns us to maintain a correct way of seeing, hearing, and thinking. Why is there evil in our mind? Buddha tells us that it is caused by 5 toxins. What are 5 toxins? Greed, anger, infatuation, slander, and suspicion. The Chinese idiom addiction to 5 toxins is understood by some as eating, drinking, whoring, gambling, and smoking, and by some as cheating, hoodwinking, swindling, abduction, and theft. In fact, the 5 toxins should refer to greed, anger, infatuation, slander, and suspicion. The 5 toxins are the dust that should be wiped off frequently. Here I would like to add another toxin, jealousy, which also needs to be wiped off frequently. What is jealousy? Jealousy is the inexplicable indignant resentment and feeling of taboo arising from within as a result of one's failure to obtain what others are in possession of. Why is jealousy also a toxin? Because jealousy can cause the distortion and abnormality of soul. Because of jealousy, one will create trouble out of nothing, disturb harmony and peace, create friction, contradictions and wars, sow discord among people, and injure life for no reason at all. Jealousy will make one ferocious, will bring about bad temper induced by anger, will make one do insensible things. In a word, jealousy will hoodwink people's spiritual eyes and distort the real nature of matter, and lead them astray and lead them to evil. Take myself as an example. Xuefeng has become the target of many people's anger, jealousy, and hostility simply because he has said he is the person with the highest wisdom, the greatest man in the history, the messenger of the greatest creator, and the incarnation of Jesus Christ and Buddha. As a result, they make themselves the enemy of Xuefeng. Why should they do this? The deepest root for this is jealousy. Because of jealousy, they won't listen to what Xuefeng has to say, and even if they listen to him, they don't do so with a correct attitude, but with a heart of evil. Because they listen with a heart of evil, they fail to see the whole forest because of a few trees. Many women have been attracted to Xuefeng. The love between people should be something sincere, kind, and beautiful, but this has also become the causes for many people's angers. Many people are thus simmering with inexplicable, overwhelming indignation. What are the causes? It is because of jealousy. The bright universe is overcast with dense dark clouds. The peaceful world is thus turned into a gloomy mess. Because of jealousy, the smooth life is filled with twists and turns. Because of jealousy, the pure soul is defiled. You can now believe that the building of life at Chanyuan is the best way of self-refinery and self-cultivation. I have created a lot of steep mountains and tortuous rivers. If you have swum across these rivers and scaled these mountains, you will see beautiful flowers in front of you. If you cannot scale these mountains and cross these rivers, you will not be able to enjoy the picturesque scenery beyond, and you can only stay where you are and cannot move forward in transmigration. Then will you still be jealous? Please wipe off the dust of jealousy regular, otherwise, it will be difficult to open the spiritual eyes and restore the spiritual perception. Don't let jealousy hoodwink the spiritual eyes. Do not seek fairness, but seek peace of mind. Xiefeng. The way of nature is just and fair. Only with the eyes of Dharma opened can one see clearly. There is no place that is not fair, no time that is not just. The retribution of cause and effect is not wrong by a hair's breadth. The sum of positive and negative energy is zero, as sure as nails hammered into a board. Everywhere people see is unfair. Facing cats, it is unfair to mice. Facing lions, tigers, leopards, and wolves, it is unfair to antelopes, buffalo, sheep, and deer. Facing birds, it is unfair to insects. Facing people, it is unfair to animals and plants. Facing the gods, Buddhas, and celestial beings of heaven, it is unfair to people. Even between people, some are handsome, some have a wretched appearance, some are beautiful and sexy. Some make people unwilling to take a second look, some are born into luxury, some struggle all their lives but still cannot live without worries about food and clothing even in their old age. Some are intelligent, some are dull. As long as we compare, we will find that the world is unfair everywhere. Since reality is like this, then let's not pursue fairness. Once pursuing fairness, one will have trouble sleeping and eating. One's life will be spent in worries, pain, anger, resentment, jealousy, and hatred, without happiness, joy, freedom, or bliss, and will be far from heaven. Being able to be born as a human, one should be grateful to the divine. If one can be born with normal facial features and physiology, it is already a great blessing. If one can live a life without major disasters, diseases, or troubles, it's already like burning high-quality incense and ancestors' graves emitting green smoke. If one can live a life where one can eat full meals and live in a hut sheltered from the wind and rain is also considered a great blessing. If one can have no worries about food and clothing,